Alright, let's discover whomst the wraith would be.
Oh, hey, it's the star of that new Lord of the Rings game I've been hearing things about.
It's a shame, I actually was a bit interested in this, but again, we'll have to see on the long run how it performs.
Desecrate one more body and your corpse will join them.
Ha! And Matt, now that'd be a time paradox if he kills
It's so
Gollum.
funny, Gollum has seen so many swords pointed at him, despite, having a very fragile kind of skin, but he always manages to get away.
Like, when you think about it, Gollum outlived pretty much all of Sauron's army in the final trilogy, when you think about it. Like, in
Well,
a
he
sense...
was the catalyst for the downfall anyway.
So I guess it's only fitting he was kind of the final boss of the third movie when you think about
Although,
it.
accidentally, remember, it was to play more on the wars, but Gandalf said that he had a part to play, and Bilbo's mercy actually could save the lives of many, even if he didn't know.
Which it actually did, because Gollum...
Like he said, the movie gave more of a reason of Frodo to have one last moment of heroic, because in the book he was even worse.
Yeah.
It was either a case of Gollum just tripping and falling on his own.
So ironically, if Bilbo hadn't spared Gollum, Frodo would have
failed.
yeah.
Well, remember, ideally, both him and Sam would have not even had much of a way to go on their own between the Ivy, the swamps, and the Black Gate. So.
The sad part is that I've been, like Jova said, like I've been watching footage and reviews of Gollum, and yeah, it does seem like this Gollum is better animated than the new one. Actually, that's
Wait.
Again,
Oh.
the one that the standalone game wanted to go through was a more cartoonish design on its own. Well, I already saw it from the first couple of trailers. But again, from what the things that I've seen is more again on the the performance, department, and again the overall review seems to be more on the mid to bad side. So I wonder if it's a problem potential of optimization or.
See,
Sorry, go on.
See, the thing is too, because like even I, who have little knowledge about Lord of the Rings, even I was going like, wait, there's an entire section, like a long section where Gollum is raising a baby bird so that bird becomes his companion throughout the game. Okay, is that something Gollum would do? Raise a baby
It's
bird?
something that Smeagol will do. That game, and this one extension, runs on the idea that Gollum has already his, more divisive split personality, and occasionally switches between, his original Smeagol persona, and the Gollum one. When arguably in the books it was at the swamps that Frodo instigates that to start to happen. The movies actually lampshades that a bit, but subsequent material love to play around because, again, that scene with Andy Serkis acting for two was just that good and wanted to milk that, essentially. But otherwise, again, it should be something that the character would be able to do, but not at that point. But from what I've seen in terms of the story, it's another case where it's a completely original tale that ignores parts of the canon anyway. So,
From what I can understand with the Gollum one, part of the reason it's getting a lot of backlash is that it is, once again, a very big game that was hyped up for, well, at least 4 years, seeing as how it was announced in March 2019, to come
again,
out...
the pandemic obviously made that Alec took a toll on that, but even so, the game was still delayed multiple times even after
Even then,
that.
though, it's a AA game that is very short and is not exactly pushing the envelope, and yet it's full $60. Allow me to remind you. Okay, if I remember correctly, I think Plague Tale Innocence didn't cost that. Let me.
Some European groups, like Dedalic in this case, which is German, still push the full-on price for these games because they know that their audience will still eat them up. But hold on, for the time being, let's get to this next artifact.
Alright, let's see what we got here. A mirror?
No, Troy, you should not, orgasm from that. Again, it's another vision from the past of a wraith. The singing of a hammer pushing against an anvil. Yes, that is a
Orion?
sword. The wraith had a family, as we noticed. But one day, a mysterious stranger went to visit him.
No, not Toriel, sorry, Gladriel.
Mysterious stranger offering him a magical hammer.
Don't take it. That could be a trap.
Waves, you should,
So fine.
you should not judge a gift from the horse's mouth.
But
How
you
rude
don't
of you.
even know that guy.
Oh, hands off.
Don't have the press.
Personal space.
Come here.
Ow.
Release him.
I love all the wraith is
Okay,
like
how many
out
times?
fighting children.
How many times has Gollum? How many times has Gollum got off because some other person said no, don't do it?
Don't do it! It'll cause a time paradox.
Again, the wraith does have a point. This seems to be working. So
Yeah, that's the kind of Lord of the Rings game I would buy. Basically a big what if video game of Lord of the Rings. And yeah, someone to embrace the group, make that happen.
oh shit.
Well, dang!
New
Oh.
creature types.
Revenants.
Ghouls.
Well,
But without the O because it's fancy.
you know what I mean,
No,
though.
it's-
I'm guessing that they
Here,
are...
Yes, waves.
No, it's here. They're the bad guys. You have to roll your tongue at one of the letters. It's not ghoul. It's gur. It's like how you
without
say
ours.
Mordor.
But anyway, yeah, this also unlocks a new ability that you can perform when you have the orange, combo meter, the area of attack. Again, if you forgot, in the Arkham game, this translates to Batman knocking down immediately every enemy who's actually on the ground, if I recall correctly. But in this case, instead, is the wraith producing a shockwave that actually does some genuine good crowd control. This is actually the most powerful move in the game because the one thing that the game doesn't tell you is that the higher the combo meter is, the more damage it does, and no enemy in the game, not even the more resistant captains, can actually deflect this kind of damage. And as such, it's actually a good way to genuinely damage them if it can actually resist everything else. You will see me employ this in one occasion or two against them. And the tactic of a ghoul is that they die one hit, but they keep swarming you. So you need to actually defeat them properly before your health runs out.
So like I said, the idea of ghouls is that I'm guessing they're like beings risen from the dead.
More like, if you forgot, the traditional sense, ghoul is not necessarily a proper undead, but more of a creature that has mutated by being near undeath, and instead, being subjected to cannibalism. And it's roughly the same way here.
Very specific and terrifying.
Mordor is such a bad place. Anyway, next up, Gollum wants to take us a trip into Abyss's cave.
And keep in mind, these are the quote-unquote peaceful times.
Well, where is he? Your friend is either a liar or a coward. Maybe he was.
Talion is really, there's no more patience for this kind of shit.
Oh, wow, that's handy.
Conveniently magical
Find your
food.
precious treasure.
But, Jesus, can this marriage be saved between these two? They're arguing more than the Brady Bunch.
Their type of relationship is more akin to, how can I describe this? A less comedic, also glitch, whoops. This kind of shit was happening in the first Assassin's Creed, no idea why it happened here. Also, I forgot to mention one thing about the characters, they can climb the stuff.
Oh, joy! And they can swarm you too, it seems.
They climb now.
Oh
They
god,
climb
how
now.
many are there?
3 actually, but let's try to... Yeah, the
Oh.
cool thing about it is that they cannot actually be standing on ledges, they can just need a flat surface. So as long as you're, on surface like the one that I climbed, you were good to go. But you can potentially outrun any enemy if you're careful enough.
Now only ruins, buried in darkness.
In the meantime, I found
That one
this
was
here.
literally waiting for you down in the bushes.
Unfortunately, we're not just out of the woods yet. Well, metaphorical woods, you know. Always a bigger fish. In this case, a grouse.
Oh, yeah, those guys are pretty
It's
nasty.
not technically a troll, it's bigger than one and more nasty.
A grog.
Yeah, one thing I've only just
Bring that beast out.
realised about Middle-earth,
Must find another way.
aside from, at least from what I've seen, and from what I've seen, you know, in the films and in this, aside from the hobbits, everyone's bloody miserable.
By the time of the Lord of the Rings, it really are a bit of a darker times. The first and
Like
the second.
even in the Hobbit, everyone's a miserable git unless you're the dwarves or the.
The elves were in a better position at that
hobbits.
point, I can tell you that, Lives.
Yeah,
but
remember,
in general, the third age, Tolkien conceptualized the third age as one of general decay and a bit of misery before Sauron got defeated, and at the point the fourth age, the Age of Man, will be of a new rise, you know, of new ups. But the first and the second age, despite their turbulences, were more, you know, intended to be instead, you know, ages of glory and splendor.
you know,
The
there.
catalyst of, you know, the starting of downfall will be the fall of Numenor, but it's something I can discuss another time.
You know, the ironic thing, at least going off of the movie, is that during the time of The Hobbit, the mentalities between the elf tribes were reversed. Like, ironically, during the time of The Hobbit, it's Legolas's tribe that are the dicks, unlike the seaside elves, who, yeah, that guy's actually pretty friendly in the Hobbit thing, whereas,
That's
you
more
know,
of a movie kind of thing, because by the time of the event of Lord of the Rings in the books, the elves are mostly on the same page anyway, and Legolas being more of a smartass is something that the movies made up.
But yeah, like, I mean, Hugo Weaving's character, he's friendlier in the Hobbit trilogy than he is in, like, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, whereas Legolas's tribe is actually friendlier in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but are kind of dicks in the Hobbit trilogy. So,
Alright,
like, I
let's
wonder if
take
they were
this
doing...
one.
I wonder, were they just doing that reversal to be cheeky?
Ooh, actual, another smith utensil. Let's see. The mysterious stranger accosting the wraith that he was still alive to propose an alliance of sort. To forge something peculiar.
Be funny if that stranger's either Sauron or Sauron. The
Specific
rings!
rings of power.
Is that new show?
Yeah, but this came before that. It's based, you know, properly on the actual mythologies of the appendages. Rings in which some part of power was actually, you know, pushed inside thanks to elven magic, and were actually distributed to the various races of Middle-earth. But
So-
this was more of a test because the stranger actually got a bit of an idea. And yes, that's Steve Blum. And that's our reveal. Our wraith name is Celebrimbor, an actual existing character from the book. Like I said, the game plays fast and loose with the continuity because the book version of Celebrimbor was indeed tricked by Sauron in creating partially the Rings of Power, and eventually got, you know, despoted and murdered by Sauron himself. But he never became a wraith, you know. So this is something technically the games are making up. But yeah, it's actually an interesting twist that we'll need to elaborate. But later on, because the cave is about to collapse, so we need to, you know, get the fuck out of here.
I would say that if the game establishes that Celebrimbor is able to move on by the end, that this can still fit in the timeline, since, yeah, he shows up as a wraith, but it's not like
Again,
he
Jova,
interferes.
you will see what this and the sequel do. Anyway, new ability unlocked is teleportation move that consumes 2 elven projectiles in order for Talion, and in this case Celebrimbor, to actually swoosh towards the enemy where you're pointing your bow and arrow at. It's actually really cool.
So if I
And
understand-
useful actually in your stealth sections. Yes, Jova?
So if I understand correctly, that was us seeing Sauron's, well,
Maiar. That technically, the demigod race to which he belongs is called Maiar, which was the appearance that he mostly have in order to be more the seductive type of evil. The big bulky armor is something that, according to the books, it was essentially his battle armor, but it was permanently fused in after the fall of Numenor as punishment for his crimes. But instead these games operate a bit fast and loose with that too, in order to give Sauron also a bit of a pleasant imagery. And again, the movies were supposed to do that too. During the Battle of the Black Gate, Sauron was supposed to show up in a spectral form in that kind of Maiar form and fought the heroes, but that was ultimately scrapped, and the extended cut showcase instead the mouth of Sauron, approaching them and doing that, which is more fitting if you ask me.
I do wonder, okay, was the whole him being bouncy armor thing, was that like something that was explained after the movies were made?
No.
Oh, okay, so that was always a thing.
Hold on.
Prime Master is good. He looks after us.
Shut your insolent mouth!
Way to roll on that diplomacy check.
Talion really don't have no time for everyone's shit to throw up.
Sauron deceived you into making the rings. He tortured both you and your king.
Which means you're kind of indirectly responsible for all the
Gollum is so
suffering.
attached to this guy, the guy that led to the creation of the One.
Why would it even matter?
Master must remember.
Remember, Gollum doesn't have the ring anymore, so he thinks attaching to Celebrimbor is his best chance.
It's for him to make him another one.
Or to find the location where it is. Sure, he knows about Bilbo and the Shire, but has no idea how to get there.
You know, you mentioned stuff that was cut. I wonder if in the original plans for the movies we were ever supposed to see more abilities for the One Ring to rule them all other than just make people disappear.
Actually, that's his one only ability, Drova, to make people disappear. The movies, in fact, even played up a bit more the idea of being a collateral damage thing, because, like I said, in the book version of the outfit, Bilbo just put that shit on and off constantly with no consequences or bad sides whatsoever.
Well, I think that's also partly
yeah,
because Tolkien hadn't fought up the Lord of the Rings trilogy at that point.
Again, in universe, it's justified in a sense that Sauron was not yet fully awakened, so it was kind of making sense.
The One Ring to rule them all. I'm surprised it didn't make like a the One Ring that's a backup in case the One Ring to rule them all ends up in the hands of some of either a giant dickhead or a small little murderous creature.
That's the
unfortunately
ironic
not really
thing.
the option, because if you forgot, Sauron actually put a lot of his soul and power inside the One, because he gambled onto using it as basically an extra battery for his powers.
That was the main reason that the ring had to be destroyed. It wasn't so much the power that the ring itself held, it's the fact that Sauron was kind of using it as essentially the prototype for a Horcrux when you think about it.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to
it
mention
gets
real
better.
quick before we go that, I'm seeing right here, a Plague Tale Innocence at launch retailed for $39.99, and Requiem was only 10 euros or bucks if you prefer, more expensive, despite being a PS5 and Series owned title. So,
Like I said, Pedro, it really depends on the company. You should see what the Embracer Group does with the collector's editions. Anyway, tune in for the next part, where, if I recall correctly, we help more Ragbag, climbing the chain of command. See ya.
Oh, fun. See ya.
See it.